All right, I am making a casserole tonight, and it's going to be a sausage and egg casserole. And what I'm using, this time around, I'm using two different types of sausages, mostly because I ran out of my chorizo sausage. I didn't have quite enough. Usually I add about 12 ounces. I had 6 ounces, and what I decided to do is combine that with 6 ounces of my hot sausage, which is all crumbled up. As you can see here, I've already browned it, and my chorizo sausage is smoked, so it's already cooked and ready to go. This casserole is going to be in a 13 by 9 baking dish. So for something that size, I tend to use more eggs, so I'm going to use 12 eggs. It'll serve about 8 to 10 people, depending on how, the size that you cut it. But besides the eggs, I'm going to be adding some mushrooms, red peppers. I love adding onions to egg dishes, and I'm using scallions this time around. I'm using about 4 of them, all chopped up. 2 cups of cheddar cheese. You can use any cheese that you like. A few dashes of some hot sauce, because you know me, I love my hot sauce. This time around, what's going to be a little bit different is I'm adding some poblano peppers, and the best way to make these is you char the skin completely, so it's all blackened, and then you just peel the skin off, and then you just dice it up and you throw it in, and they just add a lovely flavor. They're mild, they're not terribly hot, but it just adds a nice little flavor to the dish that I'm making. And also just some salt and pepper, sea salt, and some black pepper that I'm adding to it as well. I don't add a whole lot to it, just because you can't take the salt away if you add too much. You can always add it, once it's done. It's going to go into the oven for about 40 minutes once it's all set and done. But it's a great dish to have in the morning when it's, you have to get out the door. You can just grab it. You can eat it cold if you want to, or it's pretty quick to warm up in a microwave. The other nice thing about it is I like having them with at lunchtime too, with a little small salad to go with it. It's just a nice little light, fairly light lunch. So we're going to get started, and what I'm going to do right off the bat is I'm going to start charring my peppers. That's the first thing I do. One of the things I do with my peppers when I char them, I put them straight on the burner, and I just let the burner go ahead and char the bottom. And I move it around a little bit as I go, but it gets a nice black texture to it while I'm doing this. It takes a few minutes to do this way. You can certainly do it in the oven. You can certainly use a broiler. I just tend to do it this way. I like having the direct flame because I can control it a lot better than I can with a burner. And all you need is some tongs, boop, boop, tongs to go ahead and move them around and sort of flip them around. So see, it's getting how it charred already right there. So I'm going to let it go a little bit longer, and you just move it around a little bit on here, and obviously I'll dip it down to get this in. Whoop, went into the flame, but I'll just dip it down. You probably want to have your fan on high. You can start smelling it smoking a little bit. See? All right, I have blistered the peppers, or blackened them. They're in a bowl right now. They're right here. I'm not going to show you what they look like just yet. They need to be covered with a paper towel in a bowl for about 10 to 15 minutes. That softens them up, and it makes it easier for the skins to peel off. So in the meantime, I went ahead and I spread the sausage across the bottom of my baking dish. I already greased it ahead of time. I used ghee, and I greased all of it. Always grease your pan or oil it before you make something with eggs. Eggs love to stick to your baking dishes. You can saute the mushrooms. I actually am going to add them in fresh because it's going to be in the oven for about 40 minutes, so that should be enough time. And even if they're not, super soft, that's fine with me. I like firm mushrooms anyway. So I'm going to add them in, and it's about 6 ounces. I'm using a white button mushroom, but you certainly can use portobello mushrooms, brown mushrooms, whatever you like. But I'm just using mushrooms for this. White mushrooms, white button mushrooms for it. So I added that, and the same thing with the red peppers. I'm not going to cook them. I'm just going to add them. So it's adding like a layer, sort of layering everything before I add the eggs. The eggs is just going to penetrate and soak through everything. So I've done that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and beat the eggs. So you just go ahead and whisk them together. You don't want to overbeat them. I just want to get them going initially, and then I'm going to add my salt and pepper, which I'm going to do now. Oh, I got a couple of yolks I haven't busted yet. I used a dozen eggs, so it is a big egg recipe, but that's makes it taste that much better. I'm going to go ahead and add my scallions. And then I'm going to add about half a cup of cheese, or actually I'm going to add a cup of cheese to this. I'm going to reserve a cup for the top. So just go ahead and mix everything together. Okay, got that. I'm going to put this in my sink. I'm just going to go ahead and spread this all over. Go ahead and use my hand. That's fine. I'm going to actually do this. I have the eggs sort of, I'm going to spread them out a little bit more, but move things around. I just like to evenly distribute everything. Doesn't matter, I'm using my hands. I'm going to mix put the peppers on top once they're ready to go, and that'll be in just a few minutes. All right, I'm going to unveil the peppers. Ooh, this sort of gives you an idea of what they look like. They are charred, all blackened and blistered, and then what you do, you just take your fingers and you just slide the skin off. It's that easy. They're still a little toasty, little warm, but you just slide everything off. So see, I got it all over my fingers, but that's fine. That's the way to take everything off. But you just sort of skin it, basically. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop it, all three of them, and I'm going to add them to my mix. So we'll come back and we'll get into the final stage of getting this puppy in the oven once I chop these up. All right, I chopped up my peppers. I've added them, there they are, to it. Probably what I should have done was add the peppers to the eggs and sort of mix them all up in there. So what I did is I just pressed them down in there a little bit. It's okay, because what typically happens is the egg is going to rise. So what I'm going to do now is, actually before the cheese, I'm going to add some hot sauce. So just a few dashes, maybe a little bit more than a few. I love my hot sauce. And then what I'm going to do is just go ahead and sprinkle more cheese, the rest of the cheese on top. And I like breaking apart the cheese because sometimes it all sticks together. I'm very big on even distribution of cheese. So with that, the cheese is all in. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the oven for about 40 minutes. And it should be done then. And at that point, I just let it cool. And either go ahead and we can start eating it, or I'm going to let it cool down completely and start carving it out into individual storage containers, so that way we can, it's a great way to do the grab and go. So right now I'm going to put this puppy in the oven. Just took it out of the oven. It is sizzling around the sides. It is not, I checked with the toothpick, just like you would do a cake. I inserted a toothpick in the middle. It came out completely clean. I'm going to let this cool before it can go in the fridge, but it smells wonderful. You can see the cheese is all melted on top. It's a little crusty, which is good, which is what I love. So it has a little bit of a crunch to it, but it just smells incredible right now. It just has to cool, but it's a wonderful, you know, casseroles with eggs is really a wonderful dish. You can have it at any time during the day. It doesn't, eggs just aren't for breakfast. It's a great meal because all you need is just a few greens on the side, and you've got yourself a tasty dish. Easy to make, real simple. Just pop it in the oven for about 40 minutes and you're all set. If you have a favorite casserole that you like to make that's low carb, high fat, and delicious, go ahead and put it in the comments. Otherwise, if you're enjoying what you see on the channel, hit like, please, and also subscribe. And just go ahead and ping me and let me know if there's anything that you're interested in. If you have any questions, just go ahead and let me know.